right. Let's see if we're live here yet. Yep, we're up and live. Sure are. Everyone watching. All right. Pine Predator Nation in the house tonight. How you doing, Jeff? Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yep.
See you next week, too. You'll be here again next week. All right. So tonight, welcome. First of all, welcome to Blue Collar Fishing Thursday Night Live. I'm your host, Kelly. Everybody just calls me Blue Collar Fishing. We have Ohio Bass joining us tonight.
What's up, everybody?
You want to introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Yeah,
my name is Nick. I'm from Ohio. I've been on Twitter a long time. You have a lot of fans on Twitter, I see. Ohio_Bass on Twitter. Really happy to do this. I did briefly have a podcast called the Ohio Bass Podcast. And so this is kind of a role reversal for me because I'm used to setting up questions for other people. But I was really excited when Blue Collar Fishing asked me to be on. He was looking for somebody that was down here at icast. And I saw his tweet and I thought maybe I could hop on and have a conversation with him about not just icast, but all things fishing.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So who are you with down there at icast right now?
So right now I'm down with a company called American Tackle. And if you're not familiar with American Tackle, that might make sense. But American Tackle actually is a manufacturer of rod components for about 75% of the fishing rods in North America. So if you haven't used an actual American Tackle product, you probably have used some aspect of American Tackle because they are basically the leading distributor of, let's say, rod blanks, cork handles, guides, reel seats, things like that. They are down here basically for distributors looking for, I can't mention the companies that they work with, but I guarantee you if you've been fishing for more than a couple of years, you probably used an American Tackle product.
Then it's likely. I've got about 40.
You got about 40. So, but yeah, it's pretty awesome. They have won awards this year. I'm not sure if we have yet. The voting's still going, but right now their newest product is they work really closely with autism angling. So they came out with the youth rod. And we went down on, I think, Tuesday and tested the rod. They have a thing called Products on the Water, and everybody got to go down. It's kind of a typical spin cast with the button reel, but the combo is really sharp. And American Tackle is really, really close partners with autism anglers. All kids fishing. So that was one of the leading products that they came down here to icast with.
My oldest son is on the spectrum. So
okay, and I think it's really important. I've always been an advocate for taking kids fishing. I have kids, and when I could, I would take them fishing. As much as I can. Always giving kids, information or free baits and stuff like that. And seeing companies at the highest level give back, I just think that's, it's one of the most important things you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did. Actually, one of the guys I go fishing with here, his nephew is autistic. And we had a big giveaway that we had a lot of the Twitter people send stuff into. So we had Jack Van Fleet. He sent like an entire tackle box of stuff. I had
nice.
frogs, terminal tackle scent, rod and reel.
Yeah,
It's nice to have those connections and
exactly.
and do things like that. That's my
And
favorite thing to do.
And you know, the reason why I wanted to come down to icast in the first place is for the connections in the fishing industry because, um, I've been fishing my whole life, just like everybody else. Your parents, they take you when you're small, and you just keep going and going and going. And I was fortunate enough to, I wouldn't say get my foot in the door, but start working with companies about 5, 6 years ago. And when you're friends with a lot of people, sometimes the relationship starts on Twitter, sometimes it starts on Facebook, sometimes you meet somebody at a show that you go to locally, and you just build those relationships. And a lot of the people that I've been in contact with over the last maybe 2, 3 years, I've had a lot of conversations with them on the phone, but not really many face-to-face conversations. And if I had those, they've been pretty brief. So being able to come down to this event is really important to me as far as networking and trying to, build the relationships in the fishing industry. And that's one of the reasons why I hopped on American Tackle. The people were awesome. A really good relationship with the pro staff director. I had a couple other guys on the team that recommended me to get on, and and they're nice enough to bring me down and basically give me a place to go. So yeah.
That's great. Have you been walking around the expo? You seen anything new?
Well, yes, but I gotta tell you, nothing's really jumped off the radar as far as I've never seen this before. There are a lot of companies down here for the first time. And well, one thing I've learned, and I've been working with GloPro lures for about 5 years. And I started out as their media director. I kind of took over the pro staff. I work really closely with the owner. And the bait industry, well, I mean, almost every industry is like this, is highly competitive. There's so many people out there. So I see a lot of startup companies down here, different variations, trick worms, flukes, but nothing has really actually came out and said, wow, I've never seen this before. A lot of improvements on past things as far as rods and reels and things like that. But nothing really comes to mind. I thought about that while I was walking around today. I went to the new product showcase and I was looking at what every company was highlighting, for this year to try to win the icast awards. And there's really not many things that I haven't seen before, just different colors, different sizes. So yeah, to answer your question, nothing has really stuck out to me.
I was in Dick's Sporting Goods buying some tackle the other day, and I was kind of laughing. It was back in the early days of social media fishing. Dick's was notorious for kicking us out. They had no use for YouTubers. They want you filming in the store.
Yeah,
They were notorious for it. And then I was walking in Dick's buying some baits the other day, and 4 aisles, the Gugon squad takes up 4 aisles of their shelf space now. Like,
they have blew up.
You used to kick those kids out.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that the center booths are Rapala, and then right across from it's 13 Fishing. And I remember following 13 Fishing when they just got started on Twitter. It was actually one of the first really expensive rods that I bought. And they were great. The customer service was awesome. I remember I was laying my daughter down to bed, and I was actually tweeting back and forth with one of their social media reps on Twitter, DMing them, asking them, which rod do you think would help me in the situation that I was describing to them. And when I see them now, they have blown up so much. They have everything. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. And again, I see their stuff at Dick's Sporting Goods. We have a little, it's kind of like a Walmart for, I can't say that word, for farmers, I'll say it that way. And, their stuff's in there. And I look at it and I'm thinking, is the quality really the same as when they started? I can't answer that question, but it's kind of unfortunate that some of the companies, they get so big. I'll give you another example. Lunker Hunt. I don't know if you're familiar with them. My favorite topwater frog is the Lunker Hunt original frog. And it happened to win the best of show at an icast. I can't remember what year, but that's kind of put them up. And when I checked out their booth, they have a pretty large booth. They have everything now. I mean, they have ice fishing jigs. They have everything under the radar as far as the realm of fishing. And I'm trying to think, are their products just as good as some of the other guys that's been just in that field for a long time? Soft plastic baits and everything. I don't know. I know I own maybe 7 or 8 of the original frog. I use those all the time. But it's really interesting to see what companies kind of take off and what companies don't. But I can tell you that icast, I guess, if you want to take a chance and you think you do have something that has the potential, to be marketed globally, and this is the place to be. So.
All right. Yeah. Stanley, hey, welcome, buddy. I'm driving now, but I'm listening. I appreciate it. Always good to hear from you. I've been trying to get a hold of you like a week. So, hey, hit me up. We need to do another one together sometime soon, Stanley. I've got guests in the next couple of weeks, but we can figure it out. Jess still in here to see you. What do you think you said you've been doing like this with at least GoPro, excuse me.
Yeah.
Starting to call them a camera company. GoPro.
Yeah.
For 5 years. What do you think the impact of social media and like the YouTube fishing blowing up has done for this industry?
I think it's really important. I think it's the most underrated thing in marketing. So long time ago, I have a bachelor's in graphic design, commercial arts, and I kind of geared everything toward advertising, print advertising. And so I've been around it for a long time, a full-time graphic designer for over maybe about 20 years now. So I've seen a lot of different marketing campaigns, not just for fishing, but for everything. Local businesses, how do they carry themselves? And I would think social media is probably the most important aspect of, I would say in the top 3 most important things that you need to do well for your company to look professional. One would be a professional website, because that's basically a 24-hour store where anybody can go to. So you want to have a professional, clean-looking website that works also on your phone and on a PC. 2, I would say packaging, logo, branding, all that stuff is really important. And then I would put social media probably 3rd. We kind of took a grassroots campaign as far as how we're going to market GoPro lures. And what we wanted to do was get real fishermen the baits and have them use them. And hopefully, in return, they would provide us good feedback. They would provide us images. They would, basically help spread the message of what we were trying to do. And I worked for a really long time where we're able to build a really good team of, some people just focus on professional anglers, which is great. And we had some of those guys on the team. But you also want people that fish every day for fun. And when you see other people using your product that are not paid to use it, I'm not sending you a bunch of baits so you can make a video just on GoPro lures. You see other people using your product, you want to give it a chance. And that's kind of I won't get too much into it, but that's kind of the approach that we took. And I see other companies doing the same thing. And I think that is a very, very smart way to do it. It's very cost effective. And I would recommend, I can't tell you how many, every company, I ran into a lot of companies over the last couple of days. And I asked all of them if they're on social media. And I asked all of them if they're on Twitter. And nobody is on Twitter. Doesn't make any sense to me. Most of them are on TikTok now, which I'm still getting used to. Obviously, everybody's on Instagram. Some people do have YouTube channels, but they don't have the capabilities or understand properly how to shoot professional videos, or they just don't have the budget to do professional videos. But I've been told a long time ago, another guy on my team named Douglas Roberts, his sister was in pretty big with marketing on ESPN. And he told me this maybe 4 years ago, that YouTube is going to blow up and explode. And if you want to get your name out, and if you want to be anything, basically, wouldn't say in the media, but in marketing and anything in that aspect, you need to have a very solid YouTube channel. And unfortunately, either a lot of companies don't understand how to do it themselves, or they don't have the budget, for to have somebody else do it. So to wrap back around your original question, I think social media is so important. And not just saying influencers, but you need to be on social media so other people can see and interact with you. And if there's anybody else listening, that maybe has a company, maybe not even in the fishing industry, but anything, I would say that if you're able to interact with them back, if somebody takes the time to say, hey, I used your baits, or hey, I really enjoy your brand of potato chips, they're my favorite chips. If you just take the couple of seconds to respond to them, and that's such an important thing that I think a lot of companies, especially a few years ago, never did. So social media is super important if you're into marketing, branding, starting a company, or even if your company's been around for a long time. A lot of the bigger companies, they don't interact with anybody, and it's disappointing.
Yeah, it's and also especially at the start of like the rise of it, I kind of came in on like the tail end of that. So I wasn't there for, when all the fishing industry, I'm a fishing channel and a fishing podcast, so we'll stick to the fishing. I wasn't there for most of when all the fishing industry was laughing at us, like YouTubers, and especially the pros. They're all laughing at us. They didn't see the potential of what this would become. And, we mentioned it last week, and we just talked about, we can't talk about, fishing and social media and not talk about those kids in Texas.
Yeah.
They just went to superstardom in this niche, especially in the YouTube industry. So, these pros, they were all laughing at them. Like when I started at the tail end of it, I remember before they were even collabing together.
Yeah.
So when I started making videos, everybody was laughing at this. And now these pros drive boats with their name on them.
Yeah.
I guess they're laughing all the way to the bank at you.
Now I know YouTube, I've seen a lot of people complain that, say you have a certain number of subscriptions, they're just not getting the views anymore. It's like monetized. And I really don't know anything about that, but it doesn't shock me that it just seems like you need to pay to play anymore, which is disappointing, because I know when YouTube started, YouTube was supposed to be exactly what we're doing right now. Me and you kind of having a conversation about fishing, having other people listen to it. Maybe I learned something new about fishing, so I want to make a little quick 2-3 minute video about how I just fished the double fluke rig for the first time. I think it's awesome. Let me show you how to set it up, because not a lot of people know how to do this. I think that's what originally YouTube was supposed to be for, and now it seems like everything is going toward these channels who have hundreds, if not millions, of followers, and hopefully the little guy doesn't get drained out completely. That's the only thing I'd be worried about.
It's okay. It is harder now, but
Mhm.
it's like everything else in life. The more competition you have, the harder it is for people. So there
Yeah.
is competition, but that's when you do something on a public forum, especially a free one.
Yeah.
That's just something you have to come to terms with.
Yeah.
Like, you have to come to terms and appreciate the competition, because so it's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
there's more people doing YouTube now and YouTube fishing, but it changed the algorithm. But the algorithm changed too, and I think it's there was a lot of controversy around some YouTubers that did some things that uh, YouTube kept moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't used to have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours and anything like that. And then like Jake Paul got into trouble, and it moved the goalposts for everybody. But the only thing I like about that is like, okay, well, you changed all these rules for these guys who are so big that it's not going to affect them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you change
Yeah.
those rules, Jake Paul already had 1 million subscribers. He was affected none
Yeah.
by something he caused. So it's those metrics, but Google owns YouTube. I don't.
Yeah. Well, I can also say another thing that hurts is the amount of podcasters from, I would say, 2-3 years ago till today has maybe doubled. So not only are you just competing with YouTube, but you're also competing with all these other guys that have podcasts. And, I don't want to say this as a slight to anybody, but not everybody should have a podcast. You know what I mean? And then sometimes if you flood you get so many people doing something like that. I live in Cleveland, Ohio. Are you familiar with let's say, what's the Twitter Spaces, right? We have Twitter Spaces all the time about Cleveland sports, and we have so many local people doing podcasts about the Browns. I would have to say I probably know about 20 guys that live in the Cleveland area just doing podcasts about the Browns, and it kind of waters down the good podcasts, because I don't know. I guess that would just be something else. You talk about competition, but there's more competition now than there ever was, basically.
Right.
And it's easier for people to put these together, especially if they have no training or anything like that. And the same thing goes with graphic design. Back when I started, there was no filters or anything for photos. You had to go in and actually edit things and learn how to use all the tools. And now people can just instantly go like that, and somebody's picture looks better. So yeah, it's everything's getting more competitive.
Yeah, well, and especially we just talked about it a while ago. Like, YouTube is no longer what it used to be. Like, YouTube used to be a place for people to post like their home videos to share their own content, and now it's a media platform for promotion. And since it is open to everybody, I actually did this. Me and my wife were talking about it the other day. We'll take YouTube for example. The last amateur video to go viral and hit YouTube's #1 spot on their homepage was Charlie Bit My Finger. That was 16 years ago.
Wow. That makes sense.
Charlie Bit My Finger was the last amateur one. Now, if you go to YouTube's homepage, it's, Jimmy Fallon, late night TV,
Mm-hmm.
music videos that are trending. So
Yeah.
it's all this professional TV and media personalities that'll take up the homepage, and there's no more space for just the average person making videos with their phone on the
Yeah.
homepage. Now, I'm not saying there's not space for that. I mean, obviously, we're having this discussion tonight.
Yeah.
So it's just, competition is a part of life, and it's just something you're going to have to bounce around, make better content, work on the algorithm more, do more research,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. Stanley,
So
tackle box talk. Way to self promote, Stanley. He does a podcast called Tackle Box Talk, as he said.
Oh.
None of them beat Tackle Box Talk.
So what got you into fishing? Now, what do you fish for? I don't know. Have you talked about this on your podcast or?
I have, actually, and it's one of my questions, actually. So you asked me the question I ask everybody.
Yeah.
But my grandparents. When I was a kid, I grew up with a single mom
Mm-hmm.
and a fatherless home. And my grandparents used to do. My grandfather, especially, he kind of stepped into that role as the male role model for me. And I'm the youngest, I'm the youngest grandchild. So by the time I came along, my grandparents were retired and my mom was working nights. So in the summertime, when I would get out of school, we had this old Ford F100 truck, and with a cab over. They had this old Ford F100 with a cab over camper, and we grew up in the Tennessee Valley area and the Appalachians. And I would get out of school for the summer, and the day I get out of school, they'd have the camper packed and loaded and everything. And they just tell my mom, hey, they'd leave a note, going camping, Kelly's with us. And for those of you who don't know, Kelly's my real name. Going camping, Kelly's with us. And then we would go camp and fish at Watts Bar, Del Hollow, Center Hill, Melton Hill, Cordell Hall. We sometimes could head up into Kentucky Lake, Barkley, Cumberland. We lived about an hour south of the Kentucky line growing up. And then that's just what they enjoyed doing. So we would fish all these lakes. And this was back before the coal spill. So, my grandparents fished, they would fish for fish fries for dinner. They fished for dinners.
Yeah.
We would do that in the summertime growing up. And as I got older, it was just an escape. Now it's my mind does like sitting in this room or working on something outside of fishing. My mind will do 100 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Fishing is about like the only time I seem I can turn off the noise and concentrate and just do that. So that's why I still fish today. The same question: how'd you get into fishing, and why do you fish now?
Well, like most people, it started with my dad. He dragged me down to the river, and we would still fish for catfish, carp, whatever it was. And then as I got older, I don't know. I don't know if you feel this way. There's some people, I wouldn't call it luck, but there's some people that seem like they catch more fish than other people. And from an early age, I was just always getting pretty big fish. And, I loved it. I loved the adrenaline rush. Started getting into high school. Baseball and stuff like that started to fall apart. So, I would fish. We'd wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. We'd walk down to our local park. We had a big pond. We would catch carp, big giant carp, big catfish. And then it started to evolve more into bass. And then it was just something about, there's a phrase called "the tug is my drug." There's something about, the fight, the excitement, never knowing exactly when you're going to get a bite, or what's going to bite, or when, and just tinkering with like different conditions, different techniques. It's just kind of fascinating to me, and it's always been. And I love to fish for bass. Obviously, everybody likes to fish for bass. But I'm a multi-species angler. I love fishing for carp. I took a loaf of bread 2 weeks ago, and I went to this little area where I know I was trying to catch a mirror carp, and I happened to hook into a 40-pound grass carp. And I was fishing with the bread floating on the top. I saw it slowly come up, slowly eat the bread, held my breath, whether or not it was actually going to eat it or just get spooked. I saw my line go out, saw the drag go out. It was like, and I swear to God, I felt like I was 10 years old again. I mean, the rush, the feeling that you get, whether you're not going to get it in or not. It's just so much fun to me. And to help other people do it too. Since I've been doing it, I'm almost 40 years old now. But to get other people involved, either people you work with or, maybe your girlfriend or wife, your kids, your neighbors, just other people that are in your life, and help them, maybe catch their first fish, maybe catch their biggest fish, or the most fish. It doesn't matter. If you're able to help other people do something like that, I don't know if it's fishing is a skill, as far as like a trade skill, but there's a lot of people that are kind of, they don't know, and if you're able to help them achieve and get that same feeling that I was able to get over and over again, that's kind of the reason why I keep doing it. So yeah, it's something that I'll do probably, obviously the rest of my life.
I think there's, like you said, there's something to be said about, it's something that I can, you said you're almost 40. I'm almost 43.
Okay. I'm being vague. Yeah.
But there's something to be said about satisfying that competitive side in you too. As I grew older and still had a competitive streak in me, but being a football player or a baseball player or a basketball player or something became less and less likely.
Yeah.
After a couple of blown knees and different things, fishing is something I can continue to do.
Exactly.
And that's where
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that's definitely where the bass fishing comes in, and the bass fishing aspect, because it's the most competitive of the, we have a Super Bowl of bass fishing. There's no Super Bowl of walleye fishing or anything.
So I don't really fish that many tournaments. I fished Crappie USA. Have you heard that? It's a pretty big. I don't know if Mr. Crappie's bigger or not, but it's on the same level. I like to fish tournaments, but at the same time, it's really stressful and expensive. Luckily, the companies that I worked with were able to pay most of the expenses as far as like the hotel, entry fees, stuff like that. So I do fish tournaments, maybe only a couple of a year, but honest to God, if I could just go out by myself for a couple of hours, I'm kind of self-motivated myself just to see if I can land that bass, just to see if I can incorporate the things that I've been doing or learning over the last 2 years, 4 years, 6 years at this spot, this time of year, at this water level, at this temperature, wind conditions, being able to adapt. So I don't know if it's more competitive against other people as much as it's competitive within yourself, almost like golf. In golf, you're basically competing against yourself. It's more of a mental game kind of thing. That's kind of the way I feel about fishing. I don't really, if I go out fishing with my brother, I'm not hell bent on kicking his ass and catching more fish than him. I want to catch fish. If I see him not catching them, I'll help. If and vice versa. If I go out fishing with other people that have been doing it for a long time too, it's not really more of a competitive thing as far as it's more of like a self-competitive thing, trying to break a personal best or maybe a state record or something like that. But yeah, just the feeling to go out and you against the fish is, I don't know, for me, it's always going to be very, very special.
Yeah. Well, what is some of your personal best while we're on it?
Well, I typically don't weigh fish. I can tell you that the 40-pound carp was probably the biggest fish I've ever caught. It was a grass carp. I know they're technically a minnow. It's not officially a part of the carp family. In Canada, I landed a 43-inch muskie. So that's my PB muskie. And believe it or not, I was fishing a double fluke rig for bass, typical 30 size, 3,000 size reel, whatever brand you
Donkey
use.
rig, right?
Double fluke.
Yeah, we called it the donkey rig growing up.
Okay, yeah.
You tied two hook leaders off of a swivel, one a little bit longer than the other, and that way,
Yep.
You tie when the flukes they do like this.
Yep, they kind of dance in the water like that. Yeah, so it was actually my first time using it. And I hooked into this fish and it started taking my drag out. And, for the first like 30 seconds, I thought, I think I hooked my personal best bass. After about 2 minutes, I'm thinking, I think I snagged one of these carp that are in the area because there's no way this is a bass. It's taking out too much drag. After about 10 minutes, I'm thinking, this isn't a bat or this isn't a carp, because the carp would have got tired by now. I'd been floating upside down, you know what I mean, struggling to breathe. It's 35-pound flathead. Hooked it on just a 4-aught hook on a Zoom Super Fluke, and I fought that guy for about a half hour. It was awesome, and so that's one of my favorite fish. As far as bass, I don't know. I live in Ohio, so they don't grow as large as what they do down south. So, and if I would say 5-6 pounds was my personal best bass, it might not be something for somebody else, but I don't know. Fishing in Ohio, fishing Ohio is not that great. I don't know. What about you?
5 pounds is my personal best.
Yeah,
largemouth. But yeah, I mean, it's just not something I've ever had a lot of luck landing the big bass. And I grew up in a big bass factory part of the world.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough to identify, if anybody's having a hard time catching big bass, my best advice would be, first, you have to fish where the big bass are. So if your state has a DNR website that lists, the best bass lakes, they might not necessarily actually be accurate, but that would be a good starting point. But I was lucky. I'm not going to give it away on the podcast, but I found a really good local reservoir where there is a really good, not just in size, but in numbers. So I'm really fortunate to know that area. But I'm sure, people listening, they all have their own little secret spots, whether what state you live in or what country you live in. Everybody has their own little niche. But that would be, the first thing to identify is make sure you're able to fish in an area that has big fish, and then you can adapt and see what works and what doesn't work. I guess that's be the best way I can put it.
Mine does. My state in Pennsylvania, where I live now, the DNR, they do have it listed on their website.
Yeah.
They have all the species, but it's supposed to be the best water species. However, the state record is 12 pounds.
Yeah.
Which is massive fish. Don't get me wrong. Bigger than anything I've ever caught.
Yeah.
But
I couldn't.
But as state records go,
yeah,
other states double it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like Alabama, the world record, 24 pounds. California's got a 23 pounder.
Mm-hmm.
Japan's got a 24 pounder. We're
not
Tennessee, where I grew up, 17.
Yeah. I don't know if we can catch one that big up north. I mean,
largemouth, no.
But you know what? Sometimes that's not even the point. I mean, if you just get if anybody catches a 4-pound, even a 3-pound bass, you see the guys on Major League Fishing, they celebrate when they catch a 3-4 pound bass. So I don't care how many bass that you've caught in your life. You catch something over 3 pounds, it's going to be it's going to be an awesome fight, and 2, you're going to get pumped. And that's at any skill level of fishermen. You'll get excited about something like that. So.
I would have said, like, I think the largemouth world record can possibly be beat. I don't know if it'll be now. I don't know if it'll be, but just because of all the programs that we have, especially in like our southern waterways and the popularity of it, and I think social media has a lot to do with that now too. Like, social media now informs me of, like, I don't live in Texas. I've never lived in Texas. But I know Texas has a lunker share program. If you catch a 13.5 plus, you can put it in their lunker share program, and they'll breed that fish and restock that genetics back into the lake.
Nice.
So it's possible that Texas will have the next world record.
Yeah, I've never heard of that
program. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
either, but I saw it on social media one day. I saw it on Tyler's Real Fishing, another YouTuber out of Texas. So maybe Sugar Lake, Mexico, social media. I've seen a lot of people. I've never fished it, but I've seen people fish it now, and the size of the fish that come out of there.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, I wanted to believe that and I still don't know if it ever will be, just because it's so far out of the realm of what smallmouth can get to be. And we're not exactly sure if it's completely accurate, because the record was 1955 in Del Hollow Lake for the smallmouth, and supposedly the Kentucky side of it.
Yeah.
It was caught, and it was almost 12 pounds, 11 pounds, right under 12 pounds. And before I would have said, well, that'll never be big. Smallmouth just don't get that big. That'll never be big. That was a complete freak of nature that you will never see again. But with the invasive gobies now that seem to be like protein bars for them, 80? I don't know,
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about the power of social media and records. I have a good friend named Casey Artem, and I think he's on Twitter at City Anglers. Lives up in Canada, and he was fishing for steelhead, and he happened to land, excuse me, some odd species of carp, and he took a couple pictures of it, sent it to another friend, and he's like, dude, I think that's a world record. And he's like, what are you talking about? So he went and contacted somebody up in Canada, and he accidentally caught a world record species of carp. I think it was around 12 pounds, this particular species, and I can't remember the name of it. I wish I could tell you, but he actually broke the record by like 3 pounds. It wasn't like a fraction, you know what I mean? It wasn't like an ounce or something over it. And he would have never known. And he still holds that title. I think I looked a couple of months ago. Yeah, he still has a world record. He caught it on accident fishing in the river in Canada for steelhead, and he accidentally has this world record for a species of carp, which is pretty amazing. And he would have known without his friends on Twitter and social media. So,
Stanley, global warming going to make for some big fish up north, I bet.
Maybe
it's possible, yeah. Now that they have longer feeding seasons.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but so I started. Do you do any steelhead fishing? I've started to get into that. I haven't had much luck. I've been really trying to branch off a little more into. There's a couple local flathead fishing tournaments that I've been doing, and over the last couple of years, I've been slowly getting new equipment and stuff like that. I've always grown up catching catfish, but trying to catch 30, 40, 50 pound flatheads is kind of a whole different sort of, it's not the 4 pound channel cats you're dealing with, it's something else. You guys do any of that over there?
I have, but it will depend on what your answer of what a steelhead is. I say they're a steelhead. And I'm thinking, you being from the Cleveland, Ohio area, you say they're a steelhead because it's probably the steelhead. You probably fish for the same steelhead I fish for.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people out there that will tell you, since they don't swim into the ocean and come back, that a Lake Erie steelhead or a Great Lakes steelhead is not a real steelhead.
It's a rainbow.
Right.
Yeah, I've had conversations with people that just fish for trout, and they can't explain it to me. So you can't put me on the spot because I'm not. That's not my species. But it seems like that is such a vague area between what is a rainbow trout and what is a steelhead. But you are right.
Their DNA is identical.
Yeah, we do just call them steelhead around here. But yeah, it's it's very strange. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess we would have to go to New York to fish the tributaries coming out of the Atlantic for a quote unquote real steelhead.
Or it's very wishy-washy. Let's put it that way. It's wishy-washy. I can't give you the real definition, but you are correct. One of them stays in the ocean, and one of them either stays in the ocean and comes back and breeds in the river. It doesn't make much sense why they have two different names. For the longest time, I just thought steelhead was a nickname for rainbow trout, not two different species. But you're right. I can't give you a good answer on that. It is a very
I say they're
a gray area.
I say they're a steelhead. That's my take on it. I say they're a steelhead.
I agree with you.
Because if you were to put them side by side, nobody could tell me the difference.
Yes. So I haven't had much luck with those. I've been catching good-sized catfish. Like I said, I am a multi-species angler, so I do have a tackle box just for muskie. I do have a tackle box just for a small tackle box for trout. I'll just call it trout. Multiple tackle boxes for bass. Then I have one where I have a bunch of stuff for crappie, and a couple boxes I have for everything, whether I'm just going to go walk down a river and see whatever's biting, or if I'm going to a new location and I don't know what's there exactly. So I just different combinations of trays and stuff like that. But honestly, I think that's the best way to go, is just to fish for everything. Don't measure it. Don't take yourself too seriously. If I did actually buy a tripod this year, because I do most of the fishing by myself, and this way I'm not trying to take a selfie with a 42-inch muskie like I've had to done before. So it's nice to have something like that to get a couple pictures, but I'm not a person that eats fish. It's always catch and release. But if I'm able to get a good photo, something like that, that makes me happy. And it also makes the companies happy with the people that, if I'm able to give them back, images that they can use either on their website or other means. So, but that's kind of the reason why I do it.
All right. Yeah, well, one, living up here now, we just mentioned the bass fishing isn't stellar enough to just be a bass angler.
Yeah.
And, they do a very good job with the trout stocking programs up here.
Mm-hmm.
Trout's in my backyard, so I've got the same thing. I've got a pack just for that, for when me and my kid hit the streams and creeks and stuff around. And but I do measure fish, especially if I'm in I've got a digital challenge coming up with Alex Rudd, who was on last week,
Nice.
kayak challenge. So, measuring fish is how you keep track of that. And if I think it's big enough to weigh, thus far I haven't caught one big enough to think it could beat my personal best. So
nice. Am I able to give a plug real quick? Do we have time?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's a company called Deeper Sonar, and if you're not familiar with Deeper Sonar, they make a portable castable depth finder. Basically, it's about the size of a tennis ball. You're able to cast it out.
Very familiar with it.
Okay, fishing on the shore, and then real time it goes back to your phone, and it actually gives you information just like a regular depth finder about what's going on underneath the water. So I've been working with them. pretty closely in different aspects for 3-4 years. And what we came up with this in December is basically a tournament, a free online tournament called Summer Catch 22. And all you would need to do is download the app. It's free. It doesn't matter if you're on an Apple phone or an Android, any tablet, anything like that. And download the app. And if you catch a bass anytime this month and anytime next month, just take a quick photo with the measuring tape, see how long it is, upload it into Deeper. It's really, you can navigate it really easy. There's just a drop down tab at the bottom, says Catch 22, upload your fish. And excuse me, and you can win all kinds of stuff. And you don't even need to have a Deeper product to download the app and enter the tournament. Their app is just basically a platform for this tournament. It's the first year we've done it. We're starting to get the ball rolling. July was a little slow, but we have a lot of submissions in August. But you can win customized Deeper sonars. They have scales just like the one you've shown. I think that's for second and third place. They have all kinds of different stuff that you can win. And they also have, a lot of people don't want to be on a pro staff, but if you do want to get somewhat rewarded for fishing, for free, they have a squad program. If you go to deepersonar.com, look at the squad. All you got to do is just send them photos, you having fun fishing. If they happen to use it, they'll send you free stuff. For a sonar unit, they're pretty, pretty affordable for $350. I don't know if you've ever price point one that you buy for a boat, but you're not going to get the quality, for $300-400. But these are things that you can win for free. And like I said, they're a really good company, and I think that's something everybody should sign up for. All you have to do is download the app, make a free account. Just you happen to catch a nice bass, take a picture of it with the measuring stick, upload it there, and hopefully we'll be able to incorporate a lot more contests and stuff like that. We want to be able to, challenge your friends and stuff on the app, like a challenge mode. So yeah, that was the one thing I wanted to get in. I was happy you were able to give me time to do that, because that was something I worked really hard on. So
Deeper's doing the Catch 22 challenge?
Yep, Catch 22. It started at mid-July on the 22nd, and they've been promoting it for a while. And it's not just for North America. So North America, the fish is just going to be largemouth and smallmouth bass. But if you're over in Europe, they have carp and pike, and they have, I think, about 15 to 20 different other countries also doing the carp and the pike. And you can read the rules. It's really well put together, really well explained. And I don't want to take up too much time on it, but yeah, if you just go to their website or you download the app, you can read all the information there. Again, it's free. And if you are an angler fishing from the shore, I think that you should get one. I don't basically use it to help find fish as like a fish finder. What I use it for is finding the depth, the elevation changes in the water, whether there's weeds, whether the bottom is hard or soft. All that stuff to me is super important. If a couple of fish ping on it, that's a bonus. But, when you walk up to an area and you look at the water, everything looks the same on the surface. You really have no idea what's going on in the underwater terrain. So if you are an angler fishing from the shore, I would pick one of those up and definitely be an advantage for you.
What are they retailing for right now?
They have different price points. The start unit is a basic unit. I think it's around $99, and that'll give you pretty much detailed information, just for the bottom. But I think the newest model was called the Chirp Plus 2, 330, I think. It's got 3 different cone angles. It's got a narrow cone if you really want to zero in on a hump. It's got a mid-range cone if you're trying to find the hump. And if you're just new to the area, they have a wide range cone where you can scan a lot of area quickly. They have different areas where you can put basically attach your line to. So if you're in a kayak or if you're trolling, you can use it that way. You can use it ice fishing. It's got a different flasher mode on there. So you can just drop it in the hole. The battery life's fantastic. And the one thing I will say that's really important that separates them from like iBob or other companies, it has a built-in Wi-Fi system. And what's different about that is it doesn't use Bluetooth technology. So if I would put my Bluetooth headphones in and walk about 30 feet away from my phone, I lose connection. But the built-in Wi-Fi is an internal Wi-Fi, and you can get that thing out there like 400 or 500 feet. So you can float it down a river. You can attach it to a bait boat, drive it around a lake. You won't lose connection, anything like that. And that's one of the biggest things that separates Deeper, not only just the sonar technology, but being able to take it out farther away. And I can't say too much about it. It's pretty amazing piece of technology. I wish it was something that was invented when I was a kid, a long time ago.
So does it work like its own hotspot?
Yeah, so it doesn't use the Wi-Fi for, the same internet that we're using that's going around, bouncing around the stars and coming down to your phone. The unit itself has a Wi-Fi system that transmits right to your phone. So you can use it in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. You don't need to actually have service on your phone. So the Wi-Fi is built into the unit. It goes to your phone just like a Bluetooth, but the only difference is it's not Bluetooth, it's its own Wi-Fi, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think I got it.
Okay. So yeah, that's a cool tournament. I don't really have anybody else to plug. Does anybody have any questions that are listening? I can't really see this. I'm new to this, so I can't tell how many people are watching or.
It says we have 3 in right now.
Okay.
People just seem to be chatting. That's even fine. What do you have? You're still with GlowPro?
Yes, I am.
Does GlowPro have anything new coming out?
We're kind of after COVID hit, GlowPro has been on pause. So as far as our pro staff, and we would always do weekly contests that were fun, giveaways, stuff like that. A lot of it's on hold. I've been in contact with the owner. I talk to him a lot. He's a good friend of mine. So right now we're kind of putting that program on hold. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come down to icast, to be able to talk to some other people and to see if anybody else wants to kind of hop on board the social media train. And I'm working with a couple other companies now. There's another crappie company called Slab Reaper Jigs. Guy down in South Carolina pours all of his own jigs. That's really awesome. You know what? For you having me on the podcast, I'll mail you some and have you check them out. I'll do that. I'll do that when I get back to Ohio, so you can look at them. But really awesome guy. Yeah, really awesome guy. He just talked to me the other day and said I guess he can make about 1 million baits a month, and you can customize anything you want as far as different color combinations, flakes, scents. I think he has about 8 different body styles of crappie baits. He's the one that actually got me into crappie fishing and who I fished crappie tournaments with. He was on the television show Brush Pile Fishing with Russ Brantley. I don't know if you guys have that program over there on the Pursuit channel, but he's been on television, and he's one of my best friends. And I'll send you some of those baits after we get off here, and I'll let you know. I'll let you pick them out. But yeah, that's a really good company. If you're on Twitter, you're listening, give them a follow at Reaper Slab. And it's just another guy following his dream as far as making baits. And like I said earlier in the program, it's so competitive. There's so many different bait companies. It's really hard to separate yourself. But hopefully, my minor influence on the companies that I'm with, I'm able to make some sort of a difference. at least that's what I would like to think.
Reaper Slab.
Yep, Reaper Slab on Twitter. We basically just post
Actually, I
pictures
already
of the
following
baits. Oh, awesome. Yeah, so I take his photos and I look at them and make sure I take out the ones that are the baits. Post them on there. We just started an Instagram, and I don't know, that's going to take a while, but hopefully in the future we'll be giving away a lot of those on Twitter too. So what we want to do is definitely, if we have good baits, get them into people's hands that are going to use them. So
yeah, Stanley, yeah, when are you going to be around the South Texas area? Don't hold me to it, Stanley, but I'm really trying for September sometime this year, maybe, if we can do that collab then. But life keeps happening to the both of us. I don't make the big social media bucks you do. But yeah, I'm already following him. Well, our hour's about up. Nick, you got anything else you want to say before we leave?
No, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, it's nice. I used to have a podcast. I put that on pause, and it's nice to be on somebody else's podcast for a change. It's also nice to talk to somebody that you've been following on Twitter for a long time. That it's just like meeting somebody in person. It's a totally different conversation than just a bunch of text messages, DMs, stuff like that. So, thanks for having me on. And if anybody has any, what's that?
I've actually been fortunate enough to meet some of them in person. I've met Tim Zadrazil and Desert Angler. Went fishing with Billy Claybowl once.
Okay.
It's pretty nice.
That's awesome.
Well, that's going to end our live broadcast tonight. I have a couple of announcements before we go. Wild Game Pursuit was in here earlier. I don't see if he's still in here. But if anybody has, I think his name is Brad, but if anybody has Wild Game Pursuit's contact information, tell him he won last week's box from me and Alex Rudd. So if he can get a hold of me somehow to give me his address, he will have my Monster Bass box coming to him, as well as I'll have Alex Rudd ship his Monster Bass box to the Wild Game Pursuit as well. So congratulations on winning that giveaway from last week. And Rudd's box should be pretty special. He's actually part owner of Monster Bass. He has a percentage stake in it. So next week, we will have Pond Predator, who was in the audience here tonight. He'll be joining us as our guest again, and we'll be playing Cash or Trash. If anybody wants to come in and play Cash or Trash with us, let us know. You can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all social media outlets is Blue Collar Fishing. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Night, everybody.